A reading of Abandoned to God, Chapter 3, A Scottish Boyhood. And that's interesting because I'm from Clan Graham and Clan Bowden. Aberdeen, Scotland, Sunday, June 14th, 1874. At 7:30 in the morning, a large group of domestic servants arrived at the Aberdeen Music Hall, hoping to gain entrance to Dwight L. Moody's 9 o'clock meeting. Although admission was by ticket only, the servants sang hymns in the street for more than an hour until they were finally allowed inside. Dwight Moody preached a powerful evangelistic message from the text, "Here am I, send me." Later that same afternoon, a crowd estimated at 20,000 filled the grassy slope of the Broad Hill in Aberdeen for an outdoor meeting. Laborers from Aberdeen's renowned granite quarries sat beside herring fishermen and bankers and university professors. Women and children also took their places in the swelling crowd. 20,000. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. All had come to hear an uneducated American named Dwight L. Moody speak about God. While a few critics complained that Moody's rapid-fire delivery and Yankee mannerisms made him difficult to understand, his meetings were thronged in Aberdeen just as they had been in the larger cities of Glasgow and Edinburgh. His unique blend of scripture and stories held the attention of his listeners in a remarkable way. 36-year-old Reverend Clarence Chambers surveyed the immense crowd on the Broad Hill. The church he pastored, Crown Terrace Baptist, was considered healthy and growing. But if every seat were filled, he would preach to no more than 300 on a Sunday morning. The sight of 20,000 people was staggering for Clarence. Clarence was born in the same year as Dwight Moody. At 3 o'clock p.m., Moody and his associate, Ira Sankey, mounted the platform erected on a knoll at the base of the hill. Sankey, a gifted soloist and songwriter, was changing the face of church music in America and Britain with his popular book of hymns. Accompanying himself on a harmonium, Sankey cast his strong baritone voice across the hillside, singing the words of a poem he had recently found in a newspaper, and he set it to music. There were 99 that safely lay in the shelter of the fold. Many in the audience wept openly as he sang. After several solos, Sankey led the choir and the assembly in a rousing version of "Hold the Fort." Moody then preached for 20 minutes on "The wages of sin is death," and the entire service was over in an hour. That same afternoon, in the modest Chambers home on Bonaccord Terrace, Hannah Chambers kept one ear open to her brood of 6 children: Arthur, 13, Bertha, 11, Ernest, 7, Edith, 5, Franklin, 3, and Gertrude, 2, were enjoying a quiet Lord's Day afternoon. Hannah winced only slightly as the child within her gave a sudden kick. Whether boy or girl, it was an active soul. A month more, and by God's grace their children would number 7. How she wished it had been 8. Her thoughts wandered back to little Eva Mary, born on their 5th wedding anniversary, July 16th, 1865. If she had lived, she would be almost 9 now. She had died at 7 months, and the pain of losing her was still in Hannah's heart. Hannah greeted all the talk of the Moody meetings with an approving smile. Nearly 20 years before, she had been converted to Christ under the preaching of the great London Baptist minister, Charles Haddon Spurgeon. Both Clarence and Hannah had been baptized by Spurgeon, with the event confirming their mutual resolve to serve Christ completely. Clarence abandoned his plans to be a hairdresser and became one of the first students at Spurgeon's Pastor's College at the Metropolitan Tabernacle in London. Following his ordination, Clarence served a church in Romsey for 2 years and then came to Aberdeen in 1866 to be the pastor of Crown Terrace Baptist. Clarence Chambers was a man of strong purpose and stern appearance. Tall and long-whiskered, with bushy eyebrows, he swept his brown hair straight back from a line that had retreated halfway toward the back of his scalp. His eyes peered through small, round, wire-rimmed glasses, and his thin lips rarely broke into a smile. Hannah, on the other hand, overflowed with warmth and good-natured fun. Born in the London suburb of Homerton in 1840, she graced each day with the charm of a brook rippling through a Scottish Highland meadow. The two were like many Victorian couples, with Clarence providing the strictness and Hannah tempering that strictness with tender affection. Clarence Chambers returned from the Broad Hill gathering long enough for afternoon tea before returning to Moody's evening service, scheduled for 8:00 p.m. in the music hall. By 7:00 p.m. the hall was jammed and thousands had been turned away, so the meeting began an hour ahead of schedule. Moody spoke on the prodigal son, and so many people responded to his invitation to stay for private conversation about their souls that nearby churches, including Crown Terrace Baptist, were open for evangelistic services and personal counseling. A few days later, Moody and Sankey left Aberdeen, with revival fires still blazing. A month after their departure, Hannah Chambers awakened her husband in the early darkness of Friday, July 24th, 1874. "It's time," she said, with a note of urgency in her voice. Clarence sent their house girl to summon the midwife while he remained by Hannah's side. At 2:30 a.m., not long before the first signs of the far northern dawn appeared in the sky, Oswald Chambers was born. Unlike all his brothers and sisters, he was given no middle name. He was and would always be, to those who knew him, just Oswald. While the campaign of Moody and Sankey brought great spiritual renewal to the people of Aberdeen, it created challenges for Clarence Chambers and the other ministers in town. The Aberdeen Journal of June 24th, 1874 said, laying aside the spiritual and moral aspects of the movement, we should say that the chief object which may be served by Messrs. Moody and Sankey's visit may be to import more life into our religious services, to elevate to a more sanctified plane, to elevate to a more sanctified place in the services of the sanctuary the divine gift of song, and to shorten the oratorical part of the service. More worship, less commentary. The meetings of our American friends have been well attended by ministers of various denominations, and it will be for them to take the lead in instituting such reforms as will lead to a deeper personal interest on the part of the church members. By the time Oswald was 18 months old, rumblings of discontent with the ministry of Clarence Chambers, his father, were being heard at Crown Terrace Baptist. The complaints seemed to center on style rather than doctrine. Sermons lack energy and life, aimless in character, not practically useful. Most criticisms were not specific, but reflected a collective desire for change. After an initial airing of feelings in February 1876, a clear call for Clarence's resignation, they asked Oswald Chambers' father to resign. My goodness. A clear call for Clarence's resignation came in November 1876. He agreed to seek another position and asked the congregation to allow him to continue as pastor until he could find another church. With Oswald now 2 and little Florence, the last of the Chambers children, only 2 months old, it was a difficult time to move. Grudgingly, the congregation promised its cooperation, but only until next March. 3 months after the March deadline, without another call in view, Clarence yielded to the mounting tension and resigned his post in June 1877. Look at this picture of the congregational pastor, not the shepherd over a communion group in homes, but rather the orator and the businessman and the teacher. That's rough. Okay, there's a portion of chapter 3, A Scottish Boyhood.